Hey guys, what's up? Hope you all doing good out there. Thanks for tuning back in this morning. And man, we got a really good discussion this morning, and it was actually based upon a subscriber's video suggestion I got yesterday. And it's one that I've thought about a lot over the years. I've had discussions with other pros about, and that is, does the color of the boat hull that you have, does it have any effect on the fish? You know, do the fish mind it? Do the fish, are they attracted to it? Are they, scared away by it? So we'll have a little bit of discussion on that from what I've seen over the years, my years on the water. But hey, just real quick, guys, before we get started here, just wanted to remind everybody a couple of housekeeping tips. Next Thursday, on the 27th, Johnny and I have our next virtual Fish the Moment online seminar. This is going to be a seminar on post-spawn jig fishing. And I think, if you guys tuned into our first one, we did one a couple months back on pre-spawn jig fishing. This is going to be post-spawn fishing. I'm going to cover post-spawn and early summer both. So I'm going to cover all the shallow water options for jig fishing. Johnny's going to take care of all the offshore jig options. Great time of year to fish a jig. We had a really good seminar in the pre-spawn. This is going to be just as good. So if you guys are interested in that, you can just head over to fishthemoment.com and sign up for that seminar next Thursday. I think Johnny said we still have a few spots left open for it. So get over there. I hope to see you guys next Thursday for that. So anyway, let's get into this boat hull conversation a little bit. I first started getting interested in this back when I was in high school. And I think there's probably a lot of you older guys out there probably remember a guy named Doug Hannon. And Doug Hannon was one of the greatest fishing minds in the history of the sport. And if you're not familiar with Doug, let me give you a little bit of a background on it. He was, Doug Hannon, he lived in Florida, and he was like a regular contributor to Bassmaster magazine back in the 70s and 80s. And they called him the Bass Professor. That was his, claim to fame, because he had fisheries degree, and he had basically documented that he had caught over 300 bass in Florida over 10 pounds, which is like unbelievable. I mean, Florida is not the big bass factory now that it once was. I mean, it used to be the big bass factory of the world, but it's sort of with all the fishing pressure down there, you don't see that many 10-pounders like you used to in Florida. But anyway, Doug would write articles for Bassmaster magazine, and you'd always see him holding up these giant bass. And the thing about Doug is, every picture that you saw him in, he was in a camouflage boat, camouflage inside out, bottom, everything, and he had a camouflage hat on. And his theory was, it was all about stealth. He just thought that a camouflage boat was a lot more stealthy. He was into being quiet all the time, making very little in the boat movements. He talked about how important it was to remain quiet in the boat. But his big deal was, he felt the camouflage hull on the boat, was one of the reasons he caught so many giant bass. So I did the same thing. When I was 16, I bought that little junky flat bottom, that 16-foot beat up flat bottom boat at a rummage sale, and I went down and I got cans of spray paint, and I spray painted my boat exactly like Doug Hannon's, like camouflaged it, the bottom of it, the top of it, everything. So, I started out early with that. And as I got fiberglass boats, obviously you couldn't do that anymore. So, as far as the hull color, I didn't really start thinking about it until the mid-90s, when somebody told me, this is when Kevin Van Dam was on a tear. And back then, Kevin used he had a nitro, and that's all that came in was white. I mean, long ago, there wasn't any other option. So Kevin had this white hull on his boat, and he was winning everything. And I always liked the black hull. I mean, that was just the boat style I liked. From the time that I started getting my first, tournament grade boat back in the 80s, I had black boats. I just liked the way they looked. And my buddy of mine said, he goes, why don't you use have you ever thought about going to like a white hull or a light blue hull to maybe look more like the sky? Because he said your boat looks black from underneath. And, you know, do you think that that is a reason sometimes that you don't catch fish, is if you got a different colored hull? And I got thinking about it, and I started noticing back then that a lot of the guys that were at the top of the game back in those mid-90s, guys like Van Dam and guys like Clunn, you know, they had white holes on their boat. So, you know, so I went back and forth on there, and I actually, in 1998, for the first time, no, I'm sorry, 1997. In 1997, I got a black hulled boat. A white hulled boat on, you know, specifically to see if it made any difference. And it didn't make any difference for me. In fact, it was one of the worst off seasons I'd had. This was back when I was at the top of my game, and, you know, I was, you know, top 15 in the Bass Fan World Rankings, and, you know, qualifying for the Classic every year. And anyway, 1997 was a bad year because I went to a white hulled boat. Now, I don't think that has anything to do with it. I don't think that it didn't make any difference. But in my own mind, that, you know, that I didn't have confidence in that white hull. So the next year, in 1998, I went back to a black hull and almost won the Bassmasters Classic. I won the Angler of the Year Points Award in the Bassmaster Central Invitational Circuit, and was back on track, you know. So from my standpoint, I didn't think it made any difference. I mean, I did not see it making any difference in my fishing as far as the color of the hull goes. Now, does it? Or, you know, I mean, does anybody think that it does? I mean, and so you can debate that. I mean, that's something that somebody can debate based upon, you know, how quiet and how stealthy something looks. But I will say this, you know, if you're in extremely clear water, you know, where the water visibility is over 10 or 15 feet, and those fish are super spooky, and you're in shallow water, maybe less than 10 feet deep, I mean, I can see how sometimes it might make a difference. Because if you're rolling across an area and it's really clear, and you have a black hull boat, it simply doesn't look probably quite as natural as like a white hull or a gray hull, something like that, something that reflects the sky a little bit. But on the other hand, bass are not stupid. When they see a boat above them, they know that's something different. They don't really know what it is probably, but they know it's not the sky, just a cloud drifting over them. They probably think it's some type of an object. You know, bass evolved to their environments, and ever since a bass was a baby, like a little fry, bass boats, or in boats in general, are part of their environment. They don't know any different. It's like when, you know, we wake up every morning and we see the sun and the moon as part of our environment. We don't know any different. It's the same with the bass. They've evolved, you know, over the last 50 years to realize that boats are just part of their environment. So anyway, from my standpoint, from what I've seen, and I've thought about this a lot, and I've watched other anglers with it, I personally don't think it has that big of an impact. I'm not saying that it doesn't have any impact. I don't really know the degree of the impact that it has, but I don't think that it has much of an impact at all. I think in my own personal fishing that the noise factor is more important than the color of the hull that you have. I mean, it's the trolling motor noise, the pings coming off your electronics, your in the boat movements, how quiet you are when you're talking. I think the bass react a lot more to that than seeing a color of a hull drifting over the top of them. So I'd be curious to see what you guys think. You know, share some comments here, guys. Let me know if you guys have had any experience, if you've analyzed it, if you've noticed any difference on the hull colors of your boats. And that's the only way to really find out. So it's sort of like one of those deals about using scent on baits. It's like, you know, if you get more bites or less bites, you don't really know if it's the scent versus some other factors. So it's the same with the hull colors. But in my opinion, guys, from what I've seen, I think that hull color is more of a matter of confidence for the angler. I personally don't think the bass react to the color of a boat hull as much as maybe some people think. Some people may have opposite experiences, but in my own, I just haven't seen it. So anyway, interesting topic. Thanks again, for the subscriber that sent this out. Much appreciated. And keep them coming, guys. If you guys got some more video ideas, keep them coming. We've been getting some really good ones lately. And we'll be back soon with another one. See you.